Good morning. Thanks for joining me today. It is Tom Brody with Dwayne Steward today, and we are doing 7 Minutes of Sunshine at 7:07. And we've got a treat in store for y'all today. Dwayne is going to share his values and superpower with you today. And Dwayne is a writer, speaker, and activist uh, from Delaware, Ohio. So right here in Central Ohio, Dwayne is this intro is going to take a while, but Dwayne has done quite a bit of work in the last 10, 15 years. Currently with Equitas Health, Director of Prevention. And we're really lucky that Equitas was able to get him back from Boston, where he was at Fenway Health for 3 years as the director of community affairs, which is an amazing organization. Has been a writer with Boston Herald, Outlook Media, as a founder of Make It Better Foundation and consulting. Was with the Columbus Public Health Department. Has done Talktainment Radio. Was with the AIDS Resource Center. See, long list here. Newspaper Network in Central Ohio. Has been a fellow with the Pointner Institute, and the list goes on and on. So we are so lucky that you've done all this great work and been great activist. Gosh, and you're probably even just getting started. So thank you for doing all that great work, Dwayne, and thank you for joining us this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up your graphic and allow you to share your values and your superpower.
All right. Thank you so much, Tom, for having me today, this morning. I appreciate it. Thank you for giving me the chance to tell my story a little bit. And I love the way that you put this together, these superpowers and the values. I think anyone who is grounded in activism or service it leads with values. So this is beautiful. So one of my top values is really equity. And I think that just goes to just my life as an activist. I was raised by a pastor, so service to community has always been important. And equity is something that I think is what has kept us from a lot of fixing some of the ills in our society. We don't think about providing services and providing help to folks through an equity lens, and I think that's so important. There's a big difference between equality and equity, and equity really accounts for folks who are the most marginalized. Providing something to someone who has access is not the same as providing something to somebody who does not have access, and so you have to kind of come at those with different approaches. One thing I always say is we must really center the marginalized in our work, and we must govern from the margins is one thing I like to often say. And that really means that any program, policy, or service that you create really should center upon how to make it easiest to reach the most marginalized among us. And that's how you start. And if you start there, then you create something that can be accessed by everybody. So another value of mine is courage. And I'm a big fan of Maya Angelou, as many are. And one of my favorite quotes from her is, "Courage is the most important of all the virtues, because without courage, you can't practice any other virtue consistently. You can practice any virtue erratically, but nothing consistently without courage." And I've often said that, especially for queer folks of color, people who are kind of at intersecting marginalizations, we always have to live courageously. And anytime with folks who deal with multiple marginalizations walk out their door in authenticity, they're taking a risk. And you have to, and when you do that, you're being courageous. And we're kind of forced to be courageous, which I think is why, LGBTQ and queer people in general are just so resilient. Liberation is another important value of mine. I fight every day for the liberation, to get to liberation. And right now, obviously the main focus is on Black lives and creating liberation for our community. And, there's a lot of conversation right now about how people can be allies, and really getting us focusing on that path towards liberation, I think, is the best way that allies can be of help. There's a great quote: "If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together." And that was Lila Watson said that, and that's, I think, really important to me, is that we all kind of stand with each other in these fights for liberation. And I often like to say that all pathways to liberation are valid. I think we constantly have conversations about kind of how to best reach equality or reach equity in our society. And I think the folks who are fighting and protesting on the front lines, the folks who are within the system trying to make change, like, we need all of it in order to get to liberation, because it's going to take all of us working together. And then the last one is truth. Truth is important to me. Speaking truth to power is important to me, and truth in general. My background is in journalism. I started as a journalist full time in my career before I got to public health and into activism. And just that search for the truth has always been a big major makeup of who I am. And that leads to what I think is my superpower, which is empowerment. I really think it's important that we empower others. I think that one thing that we need to do better, just in the LGBTQ community in general, is helping set the next generation up for success. And sometimes taking a step back and letting young folks lead, I think, is very important. And so empowering the next generation to kind of take on the mantle and be successful. I'm really really passionate about mentorship and helping young folks kind of really receive the tools that they need to lead. We don't create enough pathways to leadership, especially for young queer folks of color. And I find that to be one of my major kind of mantras and passions in life, is to create that pathway. All right, I think that covers it.
Fantastic. You are definitely a speaker. You nailed it. Thank you, Dwayne. That great values, great superpower. You must feel great because you are living those values. I see it every day, and where you work, and all the community work that you're doing. I really appreciate. I've watched you kind of come back to Columbus, where I've kind of intersected with you a little bit with our leadership roundtable, our LGBTQ leadership roundtable, and getting to watch you connect and work together with a lot of folks, especially in this moment. And I'm really interested in this moment with your work. Tell me how this moment's been for you this year, of the given you work for a health organization, and I know you've been on the front line with social justice. What's this year been like for you?
This year has been interesting. It's I think it's revealed a lot about who we are in many different circumstances, good and bad. I think we talked about equity, and we talk about the lack of access to healthcare and all these different type of things. We have these conversations, I think, often for a long time, but like this year we really saw it firsthand. Like, and it was very stark. Like, you saw immediately when COVID hit who it was affecting the most. It was affecting the people who were of color. It was affecting marginalized communities. It was affecting low-income folks. And we immediately saw the cracks in our healthcare system, and how what public health experts have been saying for so long. We're seeing it firsthand. I think a lot of people were surprised and struck by that, even though people who worked in the public health field, we were expecting it. It was finally kind of seen, I think, on the world stage, like how important equity and access to care really is. And I 100% believe, because of seeing those cracks in our healthcare system and how it was so inequitable, really lit the match and for the movement for Black Lives that kind of really exploded again over the summer with the death of George Floyd and the several cases of Black men being murdered by police that have happened over the past several years, to be frank. And most recently, with Casey Goodson. God rest his soul, and shout out to his family. It's just, this year has really just shown the need and the necessity for us to come together and really address a lot of these major issues. And so that's what I think has been good about this year. I don't think we talk about the good of this year enough, because I do think this was an amazing moment for the world to kind of really come together and see itself. I don't think we've really seen ourselves in a way that we have this year in a long time.
Yeah. And you've had something else good happen this year. You got married. Tell us about that. Tell us about getting married and during a pandemic.
Right, we did. So I think like everyone, we came into 2020 like, this is going to be our year. We're going to have this huge wedding. We had planned originally to get married in Costa Rica, big destination wedding. Like 30 of our closest friends were going to travel with us. And then the pandemic hit and that all went down the drain. And so our anniversary of our first date is June 28th. My husband is Lawrence Howard. And that date's always been important to us. And we were all quarantined during that time. And so we had a very small, like 5 people wedding in our living room. And it was beautiful and amazing. And we were able to do that on June 28th. But luckily, we were able to have our destination wedding. We went around Thanksgiving with a very small group of friends, did all of the testing and all of the safe precautions that were necessary to make it work. And that was also amazing. It was intimate and beautiful, and just had an amazing time in Costa Rica. And it was nice to get away for a little bit, especially right after the election. And seeing all the craziness transpire. But it's been beautiful. And Lawrence and I have been together for 7 years, almost 8 years now. And so this was really just the cherry on the top to try to on the top of just our relationship. So it was great. It was great to be able to celebrate our love that way.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that, and congratulations on your marriage. Thank you. And thank you for all your work, Dwayne. I mean, obviously you've been working since you possibly could start working on these issues. It looks like such a long list of things you've done with community work. And I want to say thanks. I want to say thank you for all your work, and thanks for being in the middle of it here in Columbus, providing a lot of leadership, providing a lot of connection with a lot of folks, empowering a lot of people using your superpower, and sharing your values. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Hope you keep doing this for a long time. We need you. And I can't wait to see what else you do here going forward. So thanks a lot. I look forward to working with you. And hey, remember, even when it's really damn cloudy out, the sun is always shining. All right.
Amen.
All right, man. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
All right. You take care.